Hello and welcome to the Catholic Moments Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of Catholic Moments, the podcast from CatholicMom.com, where we talk about all things faith, family, and fun from a Catholic perspective. In today's first week of Advent episode, we'll speak with Eddie Ensley, Catholic author, about the topic of stress and anxiety and prayer.
And now, here's your host and my mom, Lisa Hendy.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you to Teresa Smith for sharing that lovely song, Blooming. You can head on over to www.teresasmithmusic.com to check out Teresa's song and many other great pieces of music from Teresa Smith. Wow, what an ironic thing that my scheduled topic this week is stress and anxiety, and I have a special guest speaker that I did an interview with earlier. Actually, I did this interview about 2 weeks ago. It's very ironic that it should come up on this week when I've had a little bit of stress in my own life. Our guest, Eddie Ensley, is an author who wrote a book entitled Prayer That Relieves Stress and Worry. The ironic thing is that when I scheduled this interview, I scheduled it knowing that for me, usually the first few weeks of Advent, like they are for many people, are busy and, yes, indeed, a little bit stressful. I'd like to say that we have the perfect Norman Rockwell Christmas season and time of Advent gathered in just quiet meditative prayer. But like it is around your home, I'm sure that you spend these first few weeks of Advent scurrying around, preparing for the holidays, attending social events, being at church more frequently, going to kids' Christmas pageants, baking, entertaining, all these things. And so I thought that when I saw Eddie's book, that it would be really a great topic to bring up this first week of Advent, to let us all kind of take a pause and speak to someone who's truly an expert on how we can use prayer in our lives to get ourselves through some of these stressful times. And the stresses that I'm talking about are simple stresses, nothing life-threatening or earth-shattering. They're the simple things that happen in our everyday lives. An example of stress in my life this week happened Sunday evening. We had attended Mass Sunday morning, and then Eric and I were back at church Sunday evening. He plays with our Life Teen band, so he had rehearsal prior to his confirmation meeting, and we ran home after rehearsal for a quick bite to eat. Greg was getting ready to go off and work his shift in the emergency room, and Adam was, just hanging out doing regular Sunday evening stuff. Suddenly, we had some kind of a pipe burst or something in our home, in our guest bathroom, and before we knew it, we were up to a couple of inches of water in our guest bathroom and entryway area. No end in sight of it ending. Shut off the water to the bathroom. That didn't work, and before we knew it, the whole house, water had to be shut off to stop the flood. Greg had to be at work in 10 minutes. Eric was late for confirmation, and I was seriously stressed out. My vision for that night was a dinner sitting at the table, Advent wreath in our midst, first candle lit, quiet prayer time, some scripture readings. Well, what happened couldn't have been further from that. We had water everywhere and water nowhere because we had no running water in the house, and it made me realize that life really is often not that Norman Rockwell type of Christmas. Life really is floods and people late for work and kids who are supposed to be at meetings and mother-in-laws jumping in to help, and that's just the way that it is sometimes. So that's how my first Sunday of Advent went this week. I'm wondering how it was around your house. Hopefully yours got off to a little more sane start than mine did. The story hasn't a happy ending. We were able to call the plumber and get the thing fixed on Monday afternoon, and everything's back to whatever semblance of normalcy you have in any busy home. But it kind of put things in perspective for me. When we finally did get to confirmation that night, the topic was perseverance, and Eric and I were laughing at how how truly crazy life is sometimes in the curves that get thrown to us. And for teenagers, the curves look like tests or athletic events that are lost or friendships that might be on the fritz. For grown-ups, those stresses might be work or even something as simple as getting your Christmas cards out or having a friend over for dinner. And perseverance and prayer and getting through those tough times is really something that our guest Eddie Ensley is going to be able to share with us this week. But what Eric and I spoke with each other about at confirmation that night was that when you look at all that's going on in our world, the things that happen in our little home, things like floods or things like a dad being late for work, are really so small and infinitesimal compared to some of the suffering and some of the true need that there is out there. And it's a good chance to kind of offer up the little bit of hardship that we went through to pray for people who are really going through difficulty, families who have sick family members or families who have troops away for serving in the military, families who are separated during these holiday seasons. So my little bit of perseverance this weekend was a wonderful prayer opportunity, and having had the conversation that I did with our guest Eddie Ensley really helped me to have, I think, a very positive attitude about the situation. So with that said, I want to share my conversation with Eddie Ensley, author of Prayer That Relieves Stress and Worry. My guest today is Deacon Eddie Ensley. Deacon Eddie Ensley is the author of Prayer That Relieves Stress and Worry. And coming up to the Advent season, I thought this would be just a wonderful book to share with our Catholic Moments listeners. So thank you so much, Deacon Eddie, for being with us today.
Good to be with you.
Now, I know that you're from Georgia and that you are a deacon in the Roman Catholic Church. Can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your family?
Well, I'm a celibate deacon, so I don't have wife and children.
Oh, okay.
And I have a lot of cousins I'm close to, but I grew up here in Columbus. I'm someone who became Catholic. I studied 7 years to be a Presbyterian minister and then became Roman Catholic.
Oh my goodness. Well, we need to schedule a whole nother show to talk about that faith journey at some point. And how long
Yes.
have you been a deacon?
I've been a deacon since '01.
Okay, so Deacon Eddie, will you please tell us a little bit about the book that you've recently released?
Well, Prayer That Relieves Stress and Worry is a book to help people come in contact with the one who can really comfort our stress, the one who can really ease our hearts. And I look to some classical ways of praying, such as the Jesus prayer, Lectio Divina, conversational prayer. And I give people concrete steps to use in prayer to open up their hearts to the comfort of God.
I love the journaling sections that you have at the end of each chapter. Talk a little bit more about why you included those in the book.
Well, journaling is very important. Augustine was a journalist, so was Saint Faustina, so was Teresa of Avila, so many of the John Wesley and the Protestant tradition. Journaling is a powerful tool for healing and stress relief. As long as our worries are going on just inside of ourselves, as long as we're having this parade of what ifs, and when we finally sit down to journal, we're externalizing what is inside of us. We're finally making it concrete where we can see it, and it becomes more manageable on the page than it does just inside ourselves.
Now, many of the people that listen to this podcast are busy parents, professionals out there working, caring for kids and stuff. And I know that when they hear the words meditation or journaling, they think, "Oh, how am I ever going to find time for that?" What suggestions for you do you have for people who are in that situation where the time that they can give to something like this may be, not in big chunks, but more sporadically throughout the day?
Yes, I think that prayers like the Jesus prayer and conversational prayer really help with us being able to pray throughout the day. But it's also good to establish a time every day,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, that we have a sacred place in our house, that we sit in the same chair, that we try to be there at a specific time every day. Maybe get up 10 or 15 minutes early in the morning and practice some of the ways of prayer that we have in the book, which are really classical Catholic ways of praying.
And that the Lectio Divina, could you just give sort of an overview for those who have not heard of that form of prayer?
Okay, it's very ancient in the church. It existed in the early church. Saint Benedict in the 6th century really gave voice to it. Uh, the Lectio Divina means divine reading,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an intimate, prayerful way of reading the scriptures. We actually pray the scriptures, and it opens up to us an intimate communication with God because we hear Him speak to us in Scripture and we respond with our own hearts in prayers. The best way to start Lectio Divina is to pick a passage. And
Mm-hmm.
for stress relief, each chapter in the book has a couple of scripture passages for Lectio Divina, and we pick the most comforting scriptures. Read a scripture slowly, out loud if possible,
Mm-hmm.
but very slowly is how you begin. And read, if you find a phrase that
Uh-huh.
really touches you, repeat that over and over again, slowly.
Right.
Just savor it. Are we still on?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, repeat it over and over again. Savor it. Uh, and then after you savor it and feel the power of it, you're chewing it over,
Uh-huh.
just like an animal chews its cud to get the most nutrition from it.
Uh-huh.
You're chewing the cud of the scripture to get the most nutrition from it. If something really speaks to you, you might then apply it to your life,
Mm-hmm.
and then you might say a prayer based on that scripture. For
Uh-huh.
instance, the Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. And then He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. He restores my soul. You might pick that particular phrase and then said, Lord, thank you for being one who can refresh me. And I need refreshment right
Right.
now.
And in the
And
book, you talk about the spiritual benefits of leading a thankfulness type of a prayer as well.
yes, that's very important. There's a story of a psychoanalyst in New York
Uh-huh.
who had a woman that came to see him, and the first question in the first session was, tell me about yourself. And that's all the woman needed. She just poured out all her woes
Uh-huh.
and all of her sad situations, only talking about those. And that went on for week after week after week. Finally, in frustration, he said, here's my prescription for you this weekend. Get on the fastest train you can to Niagara Falls. Spend 2 or 3 days at Niagara Falls and get involved in something beyond yourself.
Uh-huh.
And we do that when we go into thankfulness.
Right.
Thankfulness takes us beyond ourselves into the realm of God's love. When we really sit down and count His blessings, like the old poem, count your blessings, name them one by one, count your blessings, see what God has done. And when we do that, we're carried beyond ourselves, beyond our problems, into the realm of a God who has loved us and loves us now and will continue to love us.
We as I mentioned earlier, the book is so timely for me leading up to the season of Advent, and with our focus not only during Advent on spiritual things, but unfortunately, sort of the stress that comes with the secular holiday approach that goes on in our society these days. How can some of the techniques that you talk about help people during the holiday season really to focus on what is proper and what is the right thing to be thinking about during Advent and Christmas?
Well, I think that some of the ways of praying that we're talking about really help us wait. Contemplative prayer is a prayer of waiting. And Advent is a season of waiting,
Right.
waiting for the coming of the Lord. And we're preparing by our waiting. And also the stress relief that comes from praying some of these ancient Catholic prayer forms that we're rediscovering today can just really still our hearts and help us deal with so many stresses at Christmas. we're thrown in with family. We may have unresolved issues
Uh-huh.
with members of our family. Then we're all suddenly drawn together at Christmas or Thanksgiving. And there can be a lot of tension there. There can be a lot of sadness because we remember at Christmas those who were no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
I know this Christmas will be my first Christmas without my mother. She died in March.
Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss.
And I know that I will be turning to prayer a lot during Christmas to help me get through that first Christmas.
Well, thank you so much for this book. Now, are there any additional information about your work that you'd like to share with our listeners? I know that you do some speaking and parish ministries.
Yes, along with Deacon Robert Herman, we conduct parish missions all over the United States, and they're a real powerful event because we include some of these ways of praying as part of the parish mission. People actually get a chance to lead people through meditations on these parish missions. In addition to the talk, we'll have a 10-minute meditation to
Uh-huh.
close it, and that's the most important part of the mission. When people actually have heard things, now they open up their heart to the God we've been talking about in the talk.
How can people find out more about those missions and how can they get in touch with you for that?
Okay, the website for the parish missions is pmissions, PMISSIONS,
Uh-huh.
at charter.net.
Okay, that's the email address to get in touch with you for that. And I'll make sure that that information, as well as links to this fabulous book, Prayers That Relieve Stress and Worry, are listed in our show notes. Any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Well, just wonderful that you're out there with Catholic media. We need to flood the airwaves with Catholic media. That's so essential
Great.
right now.
Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with me and for a book that will surely be of help to me in the next few weeks and next as I begin the new liturgical year as well. I really want to thank you for your time and for a great book.
Thank you.
Well, I've got a few odds and ends to share with you. Just some things that are going on over at CatholicMom.com that I thought everybody should know about, and a few other little bits of news and information for you. The first is I want you to check out our new Catholic Mom columnist, Sadie McCurry. Sadie's writing a column entitled Not Just Strong, Army Mom Strong, which is kind of a mouthful, but Sadie's second column ran this week over at CatholicMom.com, and I am just getting such a kick out of her writing, and I wanted to point you specifically to some information down on the bottom of her column page that indicates for all of us how we as families can support military families during the holiday season and actually all year round. Sadie's husband is in the military, and she writes about what it's like to live life as a military wife. They're stationed over in Germany, and she's sharing some of her adventures. So head on over to CatholicMom.com and check out Sadie. You can see her page at CatholicMom.com/McCurry, which is MCCURRY, and particularly that information that she has on how we can lift up our soldiers and our military families during this time of the year is particularly important. Another great column this week that I want you to check out is Kay Gibson's column. She wrote a column this week called Cookbooks Upon Your Pantry Shelf. And, you know, I love sharing recipes here on the podcast. And Kay's got two great ones this week that sort of tie into this column that she wrote about the cookbooks that are lining her kitchen shelf. And I really got a kick out of this column, and particularly the two recipes that she shared. One of them is for Mimi's Blonde Brownies using Bisquick mix. And the other recipe that she shares is diabetic fruitcake, which actually uses something called Sugar Twin, which I'm assuming is some kind of a non-sugar sweetener. So if you're looking for some Christmas recipes, go on over to CatholicMom.com/Gibson, Gibson, and check out Kay's column on cooking this week in cookbooks. Some great suggestions over there. Along the lines of contest news, we did have the ending of our Bead by Bead Rosary contest, and I'm happy to announce our next Catholic Mom contest. This hasn't even actually been posted over at the website yet, so you Catholic Moments listeners are going to get the jump on everybody else. A few weeks ago, we actually featured an interview here on the podcast with a very talented young man named John Paul Rudolph, and John Paul has graciously donated 3 copies of his latest CD, which is actually his first CD as well. It's entitled Inspiration, and it's just an incredible CD. So if you would like to be considered for that giveaway, you can drop me an email to lisa@catholicmom.com. In the subject line, please write John Paul Rudolph giveaway, and the deadline for that contest will be December 20th. So have your email to me by December 20th for your chance to win the John Paul Rudolph CD. It's just, like I said, an incredible compilation of some wonderful songs. And if you didn't hear my interview, you can listen to Catholic Moments podcast number 19 and get to know John Paul Rudolph a little bit. So we've got 3 copies of that CD to give away, and that's going to be our December giveaway. If you're somebody out there listening who has a book or a CD or a service or a goodie that you'd like to promote to our Catholic Moments listeners or the CatholicMom.com reading audience, I'm looking for some new giveaway items for the new year. So we're set through December, but if you would like to consider making a donation of something that you'd like to share, it's a great way to spread the word and to get some wonderful prizes out to people who are listening to this podcast or reading over at CatholicMom.com. So if you'd like to donate something, you can email me at lisa@CatholicMom.com. And again, to enter the John Paul Rudolph contest, send me an email by December 20th. And in the body of your email, please be sure to include your mailing address. Well, just in case you missed it, I also want to point out to you a great article that ran this week over at CatholicExchange.com featuring some incredible news about a Bible study, actually a scripture study that's going to be running through Catholic Exchange. And the author of this scripture study is our good friend Cheryl Decow, whose work was featured on the Catholic Moments podcast a few weeks back. Cheryl, as you'll remember, is the founder of Bezalel Books and has published many Catholic books in the last year and is also a Catholic author in and of her own right. The article at CatholicExchange.com highlights the incredible roots of our faith and the Jewish matriarchs who went before us, including Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, Rachel. And I wanted to read you a little segment of the article to let you know about this program that's going to be coming up through Catholic Exchange. Cheryl writes, in celebration of the 20th anniversary of John Paul II's apostolic letter on the dignity of women, these remarkable women, along with Noah's wife, Lot's wife, the Hebrew midwives, Sifra and Puah, Zipporah, Miriam, Deborah, Ruth, Esther, the Virgin Mary, and Mary Magdalene, will be studied in a 10-week course that begins January 7th, 2008, and is entitled Renewing Your Christian Self in a Secular World. Intended for women of all ages, this Catholic Exchange Women's Study focuses on the inherent worth of women and how Christian women today share in the promises of God as they, too, work for His kingdom. This study includes the book of the same name, access to Catholic Exchange online moderated discussions, and Catholic Exchange weekly podcasts. The podcasts introduce the specific chapters and give foundational information on the women, while the online discussions each enhance each participant's knowledge through the sharing of insights and ideas. The podcasts feature the music of Teresa Smith and can be accessed like the online discussions at the participants' convenience. We at Catholic Exchange encourage you to invite a mother, sister, daughter, or friend and enjoy the 10-week women's study as you embrace your life as a Christian woman today. Well, since you guys on the Catholic Moments podcast listening audience are all my friends, and some of you are my sisters and my mother, I want to invite you to join me in this study. I'm looking forward to it. It begins January 7th, and we need to be watching out over at CatholicExchange.com for more information on the study. So thanks, Cheryl, for that great study, and I'm looking forward to participating in it. Well, next up, I wanted to share with you some information on a tremendous new website. It's called topcatholicsongs.com. And the brainchild behind this website is one of my a Catholic artist that I just love to listen to his stuff, Nick Alexander. And Nick, along with some other tremendous Catholic artists, have come up with this incredible website where you can download Catholic songs, learn about new Catholic recording artists, and you can actually burn your own compilation CD right from the website. It makes use of a tremendous feature that iTunes is offering called the iMix, and over on topcatholicsongs.com, you can find out about Catholic songs and actually go ahead and record them right there from your computer. So you don't actually have to buy like an entire CD of one particular artist. You can make a compilation CD, and they've got some great recommendations for the month of December, and some information about different Advent music. So I thought I'd share with you just a little bit of feedback from Nick Alexander, and then we're going to play some of the top Catholic songs for Advent. So here's some news from Nick about topcatholicsongs.com.
Hello, Lisa, the Catholic mom. This is Nick Alexander, and I just became a Catholic dad. So I'm really, really happy that you invited me to share about top Catholic songs, because if you're like me, you're wondering, what sort of Catholic music can I listen to tonight that best exemplifies the season of Advent? Let me turn on my radio, and radio doesn't play anything. Let me turn on something else, and not much of anything is on. Well, where can I go? Well, there's a site out there called topcatholicsongs.com, where you can basically listen to some songs straight from iTunes-based songs that some Catholics, we've all came in and we all voted and given our opinion and shared stories and wrote articles in order to build up the season of Advent. And it's a really nifty site because you can just go there, listen to the songs, and if you like the songs, you just download the songs, you buy them as a full album, even though it's all from different albums and stuff. And you can burn them onto a CD or upload it onto your iPod or MP3 player, and it's just a wonderful little thing, and all would be well in the world. And you get to learn about great Catholic artists, and you also get to be affirmed in your love for Advent and all the other seasons in the Catholic calendar and many other ways. This is a new site. We hope to be ongoing. And it's just a great opportunity for the Catholic artists to serve the family out there. So as a new dad, I know for myself, I have to constantly be looking for new things that will help upbuild my faith and upbuild the faith of my kids. And I think that a site like this would be just wonderful. So by all means, come and visit topcatholicsongs.com. We're waiting for you. And if you're an artist, join the community. We're here to help support each other and to get our stuff out there so people can hear it and judge for themselves. Thank you, and have an awesome Advent. God bless.
Well, I want to thank Nick for taking the time to share that information with me about Top Catholic Songs this week on very short notice. If you'd like to hear a full interview with Nick Alexander on the topic of topcatholicsongs.com, be sure to check out the Grapevine News Minute podcast from Susan Bailey and Grapevine Magazine. You can listen to episode 67, which covers Susan's interview with Nick Alexander and gives lots of great information about what went into coming up with topcatholicsongs.com, and you can also hear a montage of all 20 of the top Catholic songs that were recommended. Actually, it might be 10 of them. But anyway, in that top 10 is a wonderful CD or wonderful song called The Day of the Lord from Chuck Stevens, who is now actually Deacon Chuck Stevens. Chuck has been one of my online buddies for a few years now, and I want to congratulate him again on his recent ordination to the permanent diaconate. We've prayed together for the last few years through his discernment and through his preparation and all the hard work that he did to get ready for the diaconate. And now he's our singing deacon. So I'm going to head out of today's podcast with The Day of the Lord by Chuck Stevens. You can check out Chuck's music at www.smalltalentmusic.com. And I want to just wish all of you a very fruitful and loving start to your Advent season. Let's hope for a little more serenity this week, no floods, lots of happiness, and just placing Christ and the Eucharist at the center of our Advent preparations this week. So until next week, I wish you all the best. Can't wait to talk to you again then. And here's Chuck Stevens with The Day of the Lord. Have a great week, everyone.
Gather God's people, call each community, lay down your armor and shatter your swords, cast off the darkness, climb to the mountaintops, rise up and welcome the day of the Lord. The wolf, the lion, along with the lamb, will gently follow a small child's command. Gather God's people, call each community, lay down your armor and shatter your swords, cast off the darkness, climb to the mountaintops, rise up and welcome the day of the Lord. The crooked pathway is straightened and smooth. Our God is coming in justice and truth. Gather God's people, call each community, lay down your armor and shatter your swords, cast off the darkness, climb to the mountaintops, rise up and welcome the day of the Lord. Mercy, salvation, and freedom are yours. Gather God's people, call each community, lay down your armor and shatter your swords,